Imagine a family enjoying a simple camping trip, vanishing without a trace. Then, months later, a discovery so horrific it chills you to the bone. This is the story of the Cowden family, a case that left an officer saying, "I'm sorry the Cowan family did not get justice and I was a part of their not getting justice." Prepare yourself because the truth behind their disappearance and the massacre that followed is a nightmare Oregon can't forget. Richard Cowan, 28, a logging truck driver, and his wife Belinda, 22, were a young couple with 2 small children, David, 5, and baby Melissa, just 5 months old. They lived in White City, Oregon, a quiet town where families often sought refuge in the nearby wilderness. The Cowans were no strangers to the outdoors, knowing the forests around Copper, Oregon, intimately. Their Labor Day weekend trip in 1974 was a last-minute decision. Richard's plans to work on the driveway fell through, so they packed their car, their trusty basset hound Droopy, and headed for Carberry Creek. This remote spot near Copper, a tiny hamlet soon to be flooded by a dam, promised peace and relaxation. Their plan was simple: camp Friday and Saturday nights, visit Belinda's mother in Copper on Sunday, then head home. The weather was perfect, sunny and clear. Everything seemed set for a perfect family getaway, a brief escape from the everyday. But the woods held a terrifying secret, waiting. Sunday arrived, the day the Cowans were expected at Belinda's mother's house. Richard and young David were last seen around 9 a.m. at the Copper General Store, just a mile from their campsite, buying milk and supplies. After that brief, mundane errand, they vanished. No one saw them again. As dinner time passed with no sign of the family, Belinda's mother grew worried. She drove to the Carberry Creek campsite, a growing sense of dread in her stomach. What she found there only deepened the mystery and the fear. The family's pickup truck was parked exactly where they'd left it. The campsite itself seemed untouched, frozen in time. The camp stove was set up, belongings scattered as if they'd just stepped away for a moment. On the picnic table sat a half-full carton of milk, bought that morning. Richard's wallet, containing $21 and his valuable Rolex watch, lay untouched. Belinda's purse was there, along with her open pack of cigarettes. Even the truck keys were left behind. Yet the family's bathing suits were missing from the truck, suggesting they might have planned a dip in the creek. But why leave everything else? It made no sense. Belinda's mother called out, searched the creek banks, but found nothing. The scene was unsettling. No signs of a struggle, no tracks leading away, just an eerie, unnatural quiet. It was as if the family had simply evaporated into the dense Oregon forest. Returning home, Belinda's mother immediately contacted the Jackson County Sheriff's Office. Deputies arrived at the campsite, confirming the disturbing scene. Creepy and unnerving was how they described it. No blood, no violence, nothing overtly wrong, yet everything felt terribly, terribly wrong. Rumors began to swirl. In the remote, wild parts of Oregon, strange theories take root. Had Bigfoot claimed another victim? The mystery fueled speculation, highlighting the profound lack of answers. The next morning, one of the largest search operations in Oregon history was launched. Helicopters, search dogs, and hundreds of volunteers combed the rugged terrain. Caves, woods, and waterways were meticulously searched, but the forest held its secrets tight. Before the full search began, a heartbreaking sign emerged. Droopy, the family's basset hound, appeared alone at the Copper General Store, scratching at the door. The dog's return without his family confirmed the worst fears. Something terrible had happened. the case captured national attention, discussed in media outlets like the New York Post. Despite the intense search and interviews with over 150 people, no leads emerged. The Cowden family had seemingly vanished into thin air. The community refused to give up. A $2,000 reward was offered. Belinda's mother wrote a poignant plea in the Mail Tribune, urging hunters to keep an eye out, hoping for any small clue. Over 200 people wrote to Oregon Senator Mark Hatfield, pleading for FBI involvement. Their request was denied. There was no evidence of kidnapping or crossing state lines, the FBI stated. The case remained a local mystery, a heavy weight on the community. Investigators began to wonder about other unsolved disappearances in the area. 8 women had gone missing around the same time under similarly mysterious circumstances. Could there be a connection? The chilling revelation came later. These 8 disappearances were attributed to the notorious serial killer, Ted Bundy. Did this infamous killer cross paths with the Cowden family? Or was this just a cruel coincidence, adding another layer of complexity to an already baffling case? Autumn turned to winter, then spring. More than 7 months passed with no sign of the Cowden family. The hope of finding them alive dwindled, replaced by a grim determination to find answers, no matter how painful. On April 12, 1975, 2 young gold prospectors were working near Sturgis Fork, about 7 miles east of Carberry Creek. As they searched the forest floor, they made a discovery that would bring a horrifying conclusion to the Cowden family's disappearance. They first spotted scattered bones. Looking up, they saw something far more chilling, a skeleton tied to a tree. More bones were scattered nearby, painting a gruesome picture of a crime scene left exposed to the elements for months. Terrified, the prospectors fled and contacted the police. Authorities quickly secured the area. The skeleton tied to the tree was identified through dental records as Richard Cowan. The remote forest clearing was now a crime scene, a place of unspeakable horror. What they found within the dark, damp confines of the cave was the rest of the Cowden family. Belinda, David, and baby Melissa. Their bodies were discovered together, a heartbreaking tableau in the wilderness. The scene confirmed the worst fears. This was not a simple disappearance, but a brutal massacre. The medical examiner's findings were horrific. Richard Cowan had been shot twice in the head. Belinda had been shot once in the head. 5-year-old David had also been shot in the head. Baby Melissa, just 5 months old, had not been shot. Her cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation, likely smothered. The sheer brutality, the targeting of a baby, sent shockwaves through the investigators and the community. The evidence suggested the family was likely ambushed. Perhaps Richard and David were returning from the store when they encountered their killers. The killers then went to the campsite, found Belinda and Melissa, and forced them to the cave. Investigators worked tirelessly, but leads were scarce. Who would commit such a heinous act against an entire family, including a baby? Robbery seemed unlikely, given Richard's wallet and watch were left behind. Was it a random act of violence? Someone they knew? Suspects were considered, questioned, and ultimately ruled out. The Ted Bundy connection was explored but never definitively linked to the Cowden case. The lack of forensic evidence after months in the elements made the investigation incredibly difficult. The officer's quote at the beginning of this story reflects the deep frustration and sorrow surrounding this case. Despite the discovery of the bodies and the clear evidence of murder, the person or people responsible for the Cowden family massacre have never been brought to justice. The lack of closure has left a permanent scar on the community and the surviving family members. The question of who committed this atrocity and why continues to echo through the years, a painful reminder that justice was denied. It remains unclear if Richard died before or after his family. This detail adds another layer of confusion to an already tragic scene. The sequence of events is lost to the silence of the woods. A brief theory suggested Richard killed his family and himself, but this was quickly dismissed. How could he have tied himself to a tree after committing such acts? The murder weapon, the .22 caliber rifle, was never recovered. This strongly suggested that someone else was responsible. A killer walked free, leaving behind unimaginable sorrow. What made the discovery even more disturbing was the location itself. The very area where the bodies were found had been searched before. This happened in September, just a week after the Cowans vanished. The man who previously searched that exact spot confirmed it. He could even point out the specific cave he checked. He stated with certainty that the Cowan family was not there when he looked. They were brought to that remote spot possibly after the initial search efforts had lessened. It seems they were still alive when they were taken there, only to be killed in that desolate place. The discovery of shell casings at the scene supported this grim timeline. It pointed to the fact that they were likely murdered right there. The final moments of their lives unfolded in that isolated clearing. Some campers had seen Droopy, the family's dog. He was wandering a couple of miles from the campsite. They thought nothing of it at the time, just a lost dog. The loyal dog eventually made his way to the Copper General Store. He was a silent witness to the tragedy, unable to tell his story. His presence was a sad echo of the family he lost. Meanwhile, an elderly family from Los Angeles arrived at camp at Carberry Creek. This was on Sunday, September 1st, after the Cowans were already gone. They reported seeing something unsettling. They saw 3 people near the campsite in a pickup truck. There was a man, a woman, and another man. The family found them unsettling, feeling watched. They felt like the people in the truck were waiting for someone to leave, waiting before they packed up and left themselves. Could this have been Richard, Belinda, and the killer? Was the killer holding them at gunpoint in the truck? At this point, the mystery of the Cowan family's disappearance baffled everyone. It seemed impossible, yet it had happened. Yet, amidst the confusion, one person stood out as a potential suspect. His name was Dwayne Lee Little. Investigators still believe he may have been involved. His chilling background has kept this suspicion alive for decades. It's a past marked by violence and darkness, a past that intersects tragically with the Cowan family's fate. In 1974, Dwayne was just 25 years old. He lived in the small town of Rush, near the dense forests of Oregon, a place that held its own secrets. What made his story even more disturbing was his recent history. He had been released from the Oregon State Penitentiary only 4 months before the Cowans vanished. He was a man with a violent past, now free. Dwayne had spent years in prison for a brutal crime. He had assaulted and murdered a teenage girl named Aura Faye Phipps. Her young life was tragically cut short by his actions. At first glance, Dwayne appeared harmless, even charming. He was good-looking and had even served as class president, a facade that hid a terrible darkness. But his dark side was revealed in the most horrific way. Aura, a neighbor, went for a horseback ride one day. She never returned home. After a search, her body was found. The world learned of the terrible crime he had committed. The community was left in shock and disbelief. Little's motives for such a horrific act remain a mystery to this day, a senseless act of violence that foreshadowed future darkness. He served a 10-year sentence for this crime. He was granted parole despite the brutality of his actions, a decision that would have unforeseen and tragic consequences. The system released a predator back into the world. According to his mother, he suffered serious head trauma as a child. This is a common factor among many notorious criminals. A potential explanation, but not an excuse. On top of that, it's believed his mother's behavior towards him was psychologically damaging, not through physical abuse, but by manipulating his emotions and actions. A troubled home life that may have shaped his violent tendencies. After serving time for the brutal crime against Aura, Duane was released in May of 1974. He moved to Medford, Oregon. He worked in a warehouse and lived with his parents. Strangely, his parents' house was just a short distance from the Cowan family's campsite. It was near Carberry Creek, a chilling proximity that cannot be ignored. During Labor Day weekend that year, Duane was reportedly in Copper. This was the same weekend the Cowans disappeared. His presence in the area is highly suspicious. When questioned by the police, he denied everything. He denied ever meeting the Cowans. He claimed to have no knowledge of their disappearance. But there was more to his story. His girlfriend at the time came forward. She did so after Duane cheated on her. She told police that he owned a .22 caliber rifle. This raised serious questions immediately. Convicted felons like Duane were not allowed to possess firearms. What made this even worse was the weapon used in the murders. 2 of the Cowan family members had been shot with a .22 caliber rifle. The connection was undeniable and deeply troubling. The most puzzling part, though, was Duane's refusal to take a polygraph test. This happened when he was questioned about the Cowan murders. It was a critical moment. The officers told him that if he passed the test, he wouldn't be sent back to prison, not for illegally possessing the firearm. Yet, Duane still refused. This refusal only fueled suspicion. It led to him being sent back to prison for violating his parole. His silence spoke volumes, suggesting he had something to hide. He would be released again in 1977. Free once more, despite the lingering questions. The shadow of the Cowan case still followed him. In 1980, Duane's violent nature resurfaced in a chilling way. A pregnant woman named Margie Hunter became his next victim. Her car had broken down near Portland, Oregon. Duane, pretending to be a good Samaritan, offered her a ride, but instead of helping, he attacked her. He strangled, stabbed, and assaulted her. Miraculously, Margie survived the brutal assault. She was able to identify Duane as her attacker. Her survival was a testament to her strength. Duane was convicted for this crime. He was sentenced to 60 years in prison, a sentence that finally put him behind bars for a significant time. Now, if you're still not convinced that Duane Little might be the killer of the Cowan family, consider this. Remember the testimony from the elderly couple? They reported seeing a truck near the campsite. They saw a man and a woman in the front, and another man in the back. They said the woman appeared to be crying. This gave them a deeply creepy feeling. Well, it was later confirmed that the truck matched the description provided by the couple. And it was actually Little's family's truck. A chilling confirmation that places him directly at the scene. A miner who owned a nearby cabin revealed something significant. Little and his parents had stopped by on Monday, September 2nd, 1974. They even signed a guest book he kept for visitors. This was just a few days after the Cowans went missing. Their presence in the area, documented, contradicts their denials. It places them near the scene of the crime shortly after the abduction. Even more damning evidence emerged later. While serving time for a different crime, an inmate named Rusty Kelly shared a cell with Dwayne Little. Kelly claimed that Little confessed to him. Little allegedly told Kelly that he was responsible for the Cowan family murders. An inmate confession, while needing careful consideration, adds significant weight to the circumstantial evidence. It's a direct link, albeit from a potentially unreliable source. Despite this confession and the overwhelming circumstantial evidence, Little has never been formally charged in connection with the murders. It's a haunting mystery that remains officially unsolved. So many pieces seem to point in his direction, but no clear resolution has ever been reached. And to this day, the remaining family of the Cowan family still holds out hope. Hope that someday, justice will be served for Belinda, Richard, David, and Melissa. Hope that the truth will finally bring closure. Dwayne Little is now 75 years old. He is serving his sentence at the Oregon State Penitentiary for the attack on Margie Hunter. Given his age and the length of his confinement, it makes you wonder, will justice ever truly be delivered for the Cowan family? Will the man suspected of their brutal murders ever face charges for those specific crimes? The passage of time makes it less likely, but the hope persists. So, I've got to ask you, what do you think? Do you believe Dwayne Lee Little could have been responsible for the Cowan murders? The evidence is circumstantial, but compelling. And if he did, do you think he could have pulled it off all by himself? I mean, consider the logistics. He managed to tie Richard to a tree while Belinda and the kids were still held captive, likely in the cave. It's a complex and horrifying scenario. I want to hear your thoughts on this tragic case. Comment down below and let's get this conversation going. If you feel the weight of this story and want to help bring more cases like this to light, click the like button. Subscribe to the Into the Crime Depths channel.
In 1991, Gregory Green, living in Michigan, brutally murdered his pregnant wife, Tanya. He stabbed her repeatedly, then calmly called 911 to confess. The chilling lack of emotion in his voice still haunts those who remember the case. After serving nearly 16 years, he was released, thanks to the unwavering support of his family, including a pastor who would later deeply regret his advocacy. This is where our story takes its darkest turn. Green married the pastor's daughter, Faith. But the hope for a new beginning was shattered when Green assaulted his new wife and murdered his 2 children from a previous relationship, along with their 2 daughters together. How could this happen? How could a man who committed such unspeakable acts be given a second chance, only to unleash even more unimaginable violence? Where did the system fail so catastrophically? This is a question we must confront. This is a case that will stay with you, a chilling tale often hidden in the shadows. We're not here to glorify the violence, but to shed light on the critical red flags we all need to recognize. Let's try to understand the man behind the monster. Gregory Green was born in 1966. He seemed to come from a loving family with a supportive mother and father, and a sister. They were all active in their church community, but appearances can be deceiving. Details about his early life are scarce. Did he suffer bullying? Did he struggle with substance abuse? These unanswered questions are crucial. Understanding his formative years might offer a glimpse into the darkness that consumed him. In his late 20s, Gregory met Tanya, who would become his wife. Tanya already had 2 children and was pregnant with Gregory's child in 1990. The nature of their relationship remains largely unknown, a mystery we must try to solve. In July 1991, Tanya confided in her best friend, expressing deep concerns about Gregory's erratic behavior. She said he was acting strangely and seemed to be using drugs. Tanya was planning to leave him. "He's getting violent and irritable. I need to get out of here," she said. She planned to leave after church that Sunday, but that day never came. Her escape was tragically cut short. At 1:30 a.m. on that fateful Sunday, Gregory called 911. "I just killed my pregnant wife," he said, his voice disturbingly calm. "I stabbed her, and she's dead. She's lying in the kitchen." While the dispatcher frantically asked questions, Gregory calmly waited for the police. When they arrived, they found a horrific scene. Tanya's lifeless body lay on the kitchen floor, stabbed 10 times. Her unborn child was also lost. Tanya had 2 children, but only one was home during the attack. The other child hid in the closet, likely listening in terror as their mother was murdered. The horror they must have felt is unimaginable. Gregory was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. He told his public defender he was mentally ill and wanted to plead insanity. But after a mental evaluation, the court rejected the insanity plea. Gregory was sentenced to 15 to 20 years in prison, a sentence many felt was far too lenient. How could the system allow someone who took 2 lives to potentially walk free in just over a decade? Throughout this ordeal, Gregory's family stood by him. What did he tell them about why he committed such a horrific act? Did he claim a blackout? Uncontrollable rage? The specifics remain a mystery. Starting in 2004, Gregory sought parole, but was denied 4 times. The parole board cited his lack of remorse and his inability to understand the severity of his crime. He even blamed Tanya, claiming she was partly responsible. The board deemed him a danger to society, their primary concern. But Gregory's family continued to fight for his release, writing letters in support of his parole application. Their unwavering belief in him is both admirable and disturbing. In 2006, Gregory's mother wrote a heartfelt letter to the parole board, believing he was genuinely sorry and had gained insight into his behavior. A mother's love is powerful, but can it blind her to the truth? His sister also wrote, stating that Gregory had grown closer to the Lord and read the Bible daily. She believed this spiritual transformation was helping him, but can faith truly erase a violent past? Pastor Fred Harris, a civil rights activist involved in prison ministry, knew Gregory and his family well. He felt a calling to help Gregory turn his life around, believing he could become a testament to redemption. Fred passionately fought for Gregory's release, writing letters to the judge, advocating for a second chance. He and Gregory shared a deep friendship, extending beyond mere acquaintanceship. Was this friendship a fatal mistake? Fred hoped Gregory would be welcomed back into the church, with the community providing support as he transitioned to life outside prison. This support network was deemed crucial for Gregory's redemption. But was it enough? During his incarceration, Gregory enrolled in educational courses and participated in mental health programs. He seemed to be striving to transform himself, to become a better person. Was this genuine or a calculated act to manipulate the system? By 2008, he felt ready for his 5th appearance before the parole board. This was a watershed moment, a crossroads that would shape his future. The tension in the room must have been palpable. The board reviewed Gregory's prison record and found he had maintained an unblemished disciplinary record since 2002. Staff spoke highly of him, noting his respectful demeanor and adherence to the rules. Gregory's parents assured the board he would return to their home and had a job lined up. This, coupled with the church's support, painted a picture of a man ready for a fresh start, But was it a false picture? With 2 out of 3 parole board members voting in favor, Gregory was released in 2008. He had a job, returned to his family home, and attended church. He seemed to be transforming his life. Shockingly, he completed his parole just 2 years later, an outcome that surprised many. But life had another twist in store for Gregory, a twist that would lead to more tragedy. While navigating life outside prison, he met Faith Green, the pastor's daughter. Their relationship blossomed into a love story, a narrative of redemption. But a crucial detail remained hidden. Faith never fully grasped the depth of Gregory's criminal history, the specific reasons for his imprisonment. This ignorance would have devastating consequences. Gregory's transformation captured the attention of everyone, including Faith. But beneath the surface, the darkness was still there, waiting to erupt. The stage was set for another act of horror. What happened next will shock you to your core. The story of Gregory Green is a chilling reminder that some monsters can't be redeemed, and that the consequences of giving a killer a second chance can be devastating. Have you ever felt a nagging unease about someone you loved? A sense that they were hiding something that could shatter your world? This is the story of Faith Green, a woman who faced unimaginable horror when the shadows of her husband's past resurfaced, claiming the lives of her children and forever altering her own. This is more than just a true crime story. It's an education, a warning, and a message of hope for victims of abuse. Whenever Faith attempted to understand Gregory's past, he skillfully avoided the questions, creating a sense of unease. Despite these lingering questions, Faith and Gregory married on December 18, 2010, building a blended family. Initially, their life seemed idyllic, a picture of domestic bliss. They were a happy, united family, attending church services together and cherishing their time with Faith's 2 teenage children, Chadney and Cara, and their 2 young daughters, Coy and Kaylee. However, as time passed, Faith began to notice troubling shifts in Gregory's behavior, subtle yet ominous signs of a darkness resurfacing. By 2013, he began to exhibit unsettling anger and aggression. There was a particularly chilling incident where he violently kicked the couch while the baby was lying on it, an act that instilled profound terror in Faith. He issued veiled threats, warning her to leave or face dire consequences. Faith, desperate for a lifeline, attempted to seek protection by applying for a protective order, but her plea was denied, a devastating blow. She made a critical error in judgment by omitting Gregory's dark past from her application, a decision that would ultimately prove catastrophic. In August of 2016, Faith, driven by desperation and a primal instinct for self-preservation, made the agonizing decision to file for divorce once more, feeling compelled to escape their toxic relationship. This declaration of independence ignited a firestorm of rage within Gregory, potentially triggering a long-dormant darkness, a homicidal fury. Just a month later, on September 22nd, the unthinkable occurred, a nightmarish descent into unimaginable horror. Gregory lured Faith into the basement, a place that would soon become a scene of unspeakable violence. He bound her hands and feet with zip ties, rendering her helpless, and then, in an act of calculated cruelty, shot her in the foot, ensuring she could not escape his grasp. It was a brutal and premeditated assault, a chilling display of his capacity for violence. But his depravity did not end there. He proceeded to inflict further torment, slashing her face and body with a box cutter, leaving her in a state of excruciating pain and abject terror. Yet even this was not enough to satiate his bloodlust. Gregory had meticulously rigged the family car, transforming it into a mobile gas chamber, filling it with deadly exhaust fumes, and trapping their 2 youngest daughters, Coy and Kaylee, inside. They succumbed to carbon monoxide poisoning, a tragic and utterly preventable loss that no family should ever have to endure. In a chillingly calculated move, Gregory then dragged Faith's two teenage children, Chadney and Cara, down to the basement, where their mother lay helpless, forced to witness their execution. He shot both Chadney and Cara execution style, right before Faith's eyes, a calculated act of sadistic cruelty. After committing these unspeakable acts of violence, Gregory, with chilling composure, dialed 911, calmly confessing, "Hey, I just killed my family." He then calmly sat on the porch, awaiting the arrival of the police, an act of chilling indifference. When the officers arrived, they swiftly apprehended him, placing him in handcuffs. He remained largely silent, offering no explanation, but the scene that awaited them inside was a tableau of horror, a testament to his unspeakable depravity. They discovered the lifeless bodies of the two little girls, Coy and Kaylee, inside the car, tragically lost to carbon monoxide poisoning. They then descended into the basement, where they found the bodies of Chadney and Cara, the two teenagers brutally murdered. Faith was the sole survivor, a testament to her resilience. Chadney Allen Sr. was consumed by an unsettling feeling, a persistent unease that his ex-wife might have harbored knowledge of Gregory Green's dark past, especially considering his own complete unawareness. "I didn't know any of that," he confessed, his voice tinged with disbelief and shock. "I'm so surprised, so shocked. I'm wondering, did she know about it? How could she not know about it and be involved with someone like that? She had 2 kids with a guy." His words trailed off, the weight of the unanswered questions hanging heavy in the air. During the funeral service held for the 4 children, a pastor, attempting to offer solace amidst the overwhelming grief, tried to comfort Chadney, reassuring him that none of this was his fault. Despite these comforting words, Chadney was overwhelmed with a crushing wave of guilt, a profound sense that he should have intervened sooner to protect his children from harm. The pastor's words echoed, "You did nothing wrong. Look at me. You did nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong." Yet the guilt lingered, a persistent shadow in his heart. In an official statement released by the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, it was announced that Gregory Green had been sentenced to a staggering 45 to 100 years in prison. In addition to this substantial sentence, he received an extra 2 years for a felony firearm charge. This meant that he would first serve the 2-year sentence for the firearm offense, followed by the lengthy 45-year term for the other heinous crimes. If he serves his full sentence, he will not be eligible for parole until he reaches the age of 97. The court proceedings were marked by a grim formality. As for the charge of murder in the 2nd degree regarding Chadney Allen, how do you wish to plead? Guilty. As to the charge of torture in count 5, sir, how do you wish to plead? Guilty. As to the charge of assault with intent to do great bodily harm less than the killing of murderers to Faith Green and sir, how do you wish to plead? Guilty. It is my understanding that the defendant is prepared to accept the settlement offer of the people of today, whereby he will tender a plea of guilty to the following charges. Count 1, murder in the 2nd degree of Kaylee Green. Count 2, murder in the 2nd degree of Coy Green. Count 3, murder in the 2nd degree of Cara Allen. Count 4, murder in the 2nd degree of Chadney Allen. Count 5, torture. Count 6, assault with intent to do great bodily harm less than count 10, felony firearm. Now, 6 years after that tragic night, Faith Green made the courageous decision to share her harrowing story, to give voice to her unimaginable pain, by writing a book about her heroic experience. Her book, titled The Monster That Killed His Family Twice, The Faith Green Story, was made available on Amazon in 2022. This gripping 118-page book takes readers through the horrific night where Gregory murdered her 4 children, shedding light on the unimaginable pain Faith endured and offering a glimpse into the chaos of that fateful evening. In addition to her book, Gregory was also featured in the ID Channel docuseries Evil Lives Here, which aired in July of that same year. The episode, titled A Special Place in Hell can be streamed on Discovery+. Interestingly, Faith expresses her hope that by sharing her experiences, she can help other women who find themselves trapped in abusive and dangerous relationships, offering them a beacon of hope and a path to escape. During an interview, Faith was asked, "Would you say that there were red flags that you ignored? And if so, what were some of those?" She responded, I can say the red flags were, mood swings, the arguments for no reason, or, basically it was like being married but single. He didn't want the odor to... There were many who pointed out that she knew Gregory Green was a convicted killer, yet she still chose to marry him. The harsh reality is that Gregory's violent past should have raised more red flags. He had been convicted of killing his previous wife and their unborn child, an act so horrifying that it should have been a stark warning of what he was capable of. Gregory, like many abusers, likely masked his true nature, presenting himself as someone who had changed, who had found redemption. The lesson people took from this tragic story is that past actions, particularly violent ones, can be a strong indication of future behavior. If someone has harmed others in the past, it's crucial not to ignore it. This story is a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of domestic violence and the importance of recognizing red flags. If you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship, please don't stay silent. Reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, a local shelter, or a trusted friend or family member. Your life and the lives of your children may depend on it. Let's break the cycle of violence and create a world where everyone feels safe and respected. We'd love to know your thoughts in the comments section. If you like the way we create these videos and want to help bring more cases like this to light, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives. Thank you once again for watching.
What if the promise of a new year was shattered by a knock that heralded not hope, but unimaginable horror? This is the chilling reality that unfolded in a quiet Richmond neighborhood, a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the veneer of normalcy. The first day of 2006 began with the quiet anticipation that often accompanies a new year. In Woodland Heights, families lingered in the warmth of their homes, the echoes of holiday celebrations still resonating. But this tranquility was soon to be shattered, replaced by a nightmare that would forever haunt the city of Richmond. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows, smoke began to billow from a house on West 31st Street. Fire crews, expecting a routine call, were met with a scene of unimaginable brutality. The fire, deliberately set, was merely a veil concealing a far more sinister truth. In the basement of the burning home, firefighters discovered the bodies of 4 individuals, their limbs bound with electrical cords and tape. Each victim had been bludgeoned with a claw hammer and their throats slashed in a calculated act of execution. The scene spoke of prolonged torture and a chilling disregard for human life. This was not a random act of violence. It was a meticulously planned and executed massacre. The family had been hunted within their own home, subjected to unimaginable terror before being brutally murdered. The perpetrators had lingered, savoring the unfolding horror before attempting to erase their crime with fire. The victims were Catherine, Brian, Stella, and Ruby Harvey, not figures of fame, but cherished members of their community. Catherine, a vibrant and creative woman, co-owned a beloved toy store, a haven for children and families. Brian, a former musician, had embraced the quiet joys of fatherhood, his introspective spirit endearing him to all who knew him. Their daughters, Stella, a precocious 9-year-old, and Ruby, a joyful 4-year-old, were just beginning to blossom. Their lives, full of promise and potential, were extinguished in a senseless act of violence. The loss reverberated through the community, leaving a void that could never be filled. As news of the murders spread, grief quickly morphed into confusion and fear. There were no signs of forced entry, no known threats, no apparent motive. The sheer brutality of the crime defied comprehension. Yet investigators sensed a chilling intentionality, a calculated performance of violence. This was not a crime of passion, but a cold, deliberate act. The perpetrators had not simply killed, they had orchestrated a scene of terror, leaving behind a haunting tableau of cruelty. The investigation was just the beginning of a descent into the darkest recesses of the human psyche. The perpetrators, later identified as Ricky Gray and Ray Dandridge, had entered the Harvey home with a chilling sense of purpose. They came armed with tape, weapons, and a plan to inflict maximum terror. Their actions were deliberate, methodical, and devoid of any semblance of humanity. Gray and Dandridge systematically bound Catherine, Brian, and young Ruby in the basement. Meanwhile, Dandridge ransacked the house, searching for valuables while transforming the family's sanctuary into a scene of unimaginable horror. The arrival of Stella from a sleepover only deepened the tragedy. Catherine, under duress, was forced to retrieve Stella from her friend's house, concealing the terror that awaited her daughter. The image of Catherine, pale and composed, standing in the doorway, would forever haunt those who witnessed it. The illusion of safety was shattered, replaced by the grim reality of captivity. In the basement, the family was subjected to a prolonged ordeal of torture and terror. Gray, with chilling precision, used a blade to slash their throats, the packing tape still clinging to their skin. But the horror did not end there. He then used a claw hammer to inflict further trauma, turning a cold execution into a grotesque display of violence. The medical examiner's report, while clinical, could not fully capture the depravity of the scene. Brian and Catherine died from blunt force trauma. Stella succumbed to smoke inhalation and crushing blows. Ruby, just 4 years old, was stabbed in the back, the wound piercing her lung. These were not mere statistics, but the final moments of lives brutally extinguished. As a final act of desecration, Gray and Dandridge set fire to the house, using a small art easel as kindling. This was not simply an attempt to destroy evidence, but a symbolic act of annihilation, erasing the family's identity and transforming their home into a tomb. The fire, however, did not go unnoticed. Johnny Hott, a friend of Brian's, spotted the smoke and alerted the authorities. His call set in motion a chain of events that would ultimately unravel the truth and bring the perpetrators to justice. The men who had walked out of the Harvey home, seemingly untouched by the horror they had unleashed, were about to face the consequences of their actions. Ricky Gray and Ray Dandridge were no strangers to violence. Their lives were marked by criminal records, failed relationships, and a shared propensity for brutality. Their paths, intertwined by blood and a shared history of violence, led them to commit unspeakable acts of cruelty. Ricky Gray's history was one of instability and violence. He had spent years in and out of prison, known for his explosive temper and a tendency to make life miserable for those around him. His relationship with his third wife, Trevor Terrell, was particularly volatile. Trevor Terrell's death, initially dismissed as a drug overdose, was later revealed to be a brutal murder. Ricky Gray was the prime suspect, but authorities failed to connect the dots. Enter Ray Dandridge, Gray's nephew, recently released from prison after serving time for armed robbery. Dandridge's arrival only exacerbated Gray's violent tendencies. The two men, bound by a shared disregard for human life, embarked on a spree of violence that culminated in the Harvey family massacre. Their actions were a chilling testament to the depths of human depravity. After Trevor Terrell's death, Gray and Dandridge fled to Arlington, Virginia, hoping to evade justice. But their violent tendencies could not be suppressed. On New Year's Eve, they attacked Ryan and Carrie, leaving him for dead in front of his own home. Carrie survived, but his life was forever altered. Carrie's testimony provided crucial evidence linking Gray and Dandridge to the Harvey family murders. But the true horror of their actions was only beginning to emerge. The Harvey family massacre was not an isolated incident, but part of a larger pattern of violence and depravity. Gray later confessed that the motive behind the Harvey family murders was simply money. They had not targeted the family specifically, but had simply seized an opportunity when they found the front door open. Their desperation for money led them to commit an act of unspeakable cruelty. Once inside the Harvey home, Gray and Dandridge held the family hostage. When friends arrived for a playdate, Catherine was forced to maintain a facade of normalcy, knowing that her family's lives hung in the balance. Her bravery and composure in the face of unimaginable terror were a testament to her love for her family. After murdering the Harvey family, Gray and Dandridge set fire to the house in an attempt to destroy the evidence. But their efforts were in vain. The fire only served to draw attention to their crime and ultimately led to their capture. Their attempt to erase the truth was a failure. A few days later, Gray and Dandridge turned on their accomplice, Ashley Baskerville, and her parents, adding them to the growing list of victims. Their killing spree was a chilling reminder of the capacity for evil that exists within humanity. The Harvey family murders serve as a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the ever-present threat of violence. It is a call to vigilance, to be aware of our surroundings and to protect those who are vulnerable. It is also a call to justice, to ensure that those who commit such heinous crimes are held accountable for their actions. On January 3, 2006, a seemingly ordinary robbery unfolded in Chesterfield County, Virginia. A couple residing on Hollywood Drive became the unsuspecting targets of a meticulously planned crime. The perpetrators, a trio consisting of 2 men and a woman, approached their door under the guise of seeking directions. Their initial facade of harmlessness quickly dissolved as they forced their way inside, terrorizing the couple. The intruders ransacked the house, making off with a computer, a television, and $800 in cash. A plea for compassion, highlighting the wife's disability and the husband's role as her caregiver, briefly gave the criminals pause. However, the intrusion had already irrevocably violated the sanctity of their home. The stolen goods were just the beginning. On January 6, 2006, a concerned citizen contacted the Chesterfield police station with a disturbing tip. She expressed her anxieties regarding her daughter's friend, 21-year-old Ashley Baskerville, and her unsettling association with 2 men, Ricky Gray and Ray Dandridge. These men had been staying at Ashley's residence and were now suspected of involvement in the Harvey family murders. This tip propelled investigators to Ashley's home on East Broad Road, where she lived with her mother, Mary Baskerville Tucker, and stepfather, Percy L. Tucker. What they discovered within those walls was a scene of unspeakable horror. The house was in disarray, a stark testament to the violence that had transpired. Percival and Mary had been brutally murdered, their throats slashed with savage precision. But the true extent of the depravity was revealed in what they had done to Ashley. She had been suffocated, a plastic bag tightly sealed around her head with duct tape. This same tape had been used to bind her and her family, silencing their screams and extinguishing any hope of escape. The victims had been gagged and bound, a cruel display of dominance. Their bodies were left within the confines of their own home, where their lives had been so violently extinguished. The police quickly connected the dots, realizing that the stolen items from the Chesterfield home invasion matched those found at the Baskerville Tucker residence. The most damning piece of evidence was the ring Ashley was wearing. It was Catherine Harvey's wedding ring. Gray and Dandridge were on a rampage, their thirst for violence insatiable. This was not merely a robbery gone awry. It was the continuation of a spree that had already left a trail of devastation in its wake. On the morning of January 7, 2006, Ricky Gray and Ray Dandridge were apprehended in Philadelphia, where they were staying at Dandridge's father's home. Within an hour of his arrest, Dandridge confessed to the murders of Mary and Percival Tucker, as well as Ashley Baskerville. 12 hours later, Gray, who had been silently stewing in his cell, requested to speak with a detective. What followed was a chilling confession, a detailed 3-page account of his crimes. He described how he had murdered the Harvey family, using a kitchen knife and a claw hammer to brutally end their lives. Gray offered no justification for his actions, stating, "I don't believe sorry is strong enough." He confessed to beating his wife, Trevor, to death while Dandridge held her down, and admitted his involvement in the Tucker Baskerville murders. Gray even confessed to the brutal attack on Ryan Carey. The floodgates had opened, and a torrent of depravity poured forth. As the investigation progressed, the police pieced together the full story. By January 8, 2006, they had confirmed Ashley Baskerville's involvement. She was not merely a victim caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. She had actively participated in the robbery and murders. Evidence, including witness testimony and items found during the investigation, revealed that Ashley had played a role in the crimes. She had acted as a lookout while Gray and Dandridge entered the Harvey home to rob them. Later, she became a disposable pawn, discarded by the monsters she had aligned herself with. In their confessions, Gray and Dandridge claimed that Ashley had pretended to be a victim, allowing herself to be tied up as part of the plan to rob her parents. But when things went awry, Gray decided he no longer needed her and killed her, stealing her parents' car to make their escape. The entire sequence of events was a twisted web of lies, manipulation, and brutal violence. What began as a robbery spiraled into something far more sinister, and the confessions from Gray and Dandridge revealed the depth of their involvement in the deaths of so many innocent people. The aftermath of their arrests sent shockwaves through the community, leaving behind a trail of broken lives and unanswered questions. The court proceedings for Ricky Gray and Ray Dandridge were as intense and chilling as the crimes they had committed. Both men were tried in the city of Richmond Circuit Court in Virginia, with the weight of the murders hanging over them. On February 9, 2006, the legal process began to unfold. Ricky Gray was charged with 5 counts of capital murder for his role in the horrific murders of the Harvey family. These charges included killing more than once in a 3-year period, committing multiple murders in a single act, killing during a robbery, and killing 2 children under 14 years old. Dandridge was charged with 3 counts of capital murder for the deaths of the Baskerville Tucker family, with one of those charges later encompassing his role in the Harvey murders. Initially, Dandridge pleaded not guilty, but as the trial progressed and the evidence against him mounted, he made a dramatic change. Just before closing arguments, he switched his plea to guilty for all 3 murders, agreeing to a deal that would keep him behind bars for the rest of his life without the possibility of parole. This was his attempt to avoid the death penalty, but his guilt was undeniable. Gray, however, maintained his not guilty plea. His defense team attempted to argue that he had suffered physical and sexual abuse as a child and that he was under the influence of PCP at the time of the murders, hoping for leniency. But the jury was not swayed. After a 4-day trial and just 30 minutes of deliberation, they found him guilty on all 5 capital murder charges. The jury recommended the death penalty for the murders of the Harvey children, Stella and Ruby, while suggesting life in prison for the other 3 charges. On October 23, 2006, Gray was officially sentenced to death, but the legal battles were far from over. In December 2006, Ricky Gray was also indicted for the murder of 37-year-old Cheryl Warner, a mother of 3 whose body was found in a burning house in Culpeper County. She had been shot and hanged in the basement, another horrific act that Gray would have to answer for. However, this charge was eventually dropped in 2008 due to contradictory evidence. Even after his sentence, Gray's case dragged on. Between 2011 and 2015, his execution was delayed multiple times due to appeals in both state and federal courts. In November 2015, the Fourth Circuit Court rejected one of his appeals. In January 2016, Gray's execution was set for March 16, 2016. His lawyers filed yet another appeal with the U.S. Supreme Court, which chose not to hear his case later that year. Finally, in 2016, after all appeals were exhausted, Governor Terry McAuliffe denied Gray's clemency plea. His execution was scheduled for January 18, 2017. At approximately 10 p.m. that night, Ricky Gray was executed by lethal injection at the Greensville Correctional Center. Ray Dandridge is still serving his life sentence in Sussex II State Prison. His story did not end with the trial, and the weight of his actions continues to bear down on him as he remains behind bars. The trial and its aftermath revealed the profound darkness that resided within these 2 men. Gray, who ultimately faced the ultimate penalty, and Dandridge, who will spend the remainder of his days in prison, both left a trail of devastation that continues to resonate in the Richmond community. As the dust settles, one question lingers in the minds of those left to pick up the pieces. Was this truly the end of their deadly spree? The purpose of this narrative is to shed light on the importance of vigilance, the fragility of innocence, and the enduring need for justice in the face of unimaginable evil. What lessons can we learn from this tragic chapter in Richmond's history? Share your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. Let us remember the victims and strive to create a safer, more just world. If you found this account informative and thought-provoking, please like and share this video to help raise awareness. Subscribe to our channel Into the Crime Depths for more in-depth explorations of true crime stories.
In 1987, police entered Ronald Gene Simmons' rural Arkansas home and found a scene so horrific that even the most seasoned investigators were shocked. Inside, the bodies of 14 people lay strewn about, his family, his flesh, and his blood. But the horror didn't end there. What followed would become one of the most shocking massacres in American history. To the public, Ronald Gene Simmons was already known for being cold, reclusive, even strange, but no one was prepared for what was uncovered inside that house. not the twisted motives, not the years of terror that preceded it, and certainly not the secrets that had been hiding in plain sight for decades. Simmons didn't just kill. He built a life around control, cruelty, and domination. This is not an easy story. It's one of incest, emotional torture, and murder. If those themes are too heavy for you, this might not be the case to follow. But if you're still here, know this. Once you hear what really happened behind the walls of that Arkansas home, it will stay with you. Because monsters aren't just made in stories. Sometimes they wear uniforms. Sometimes they're fathers. Witnesses later described Simmons with words like mad dog, weirdo, and friendly, conflicting glimpses into a man who kept most of his true self hidden. One woman recalled, "He pointed a gun at me. He smiled. Not like a person smiles, like a predator, like something wild." Simmons showed no emotion, no remorse, only a chilling silence that would terrify even the most hardened detective. But let's go back, long before the blood, before the headlines. Ronald Gene Simmons was born July 15, 1940, in Chicago, Illinois, during a time of war and great uncertainty. He was just a toddler when tragedy struck. His father died of a sudden stroke, leaving a void that would never quite be filled. A year later, his mother remarried a man in the Army Corps of Engineers, and Ronald's life was thrown into constant motion. The family never stayed in one place for long. Moving from base to base across Arkansas, Ronald was always the outsider, the new kid, never able to put down roots or form lasting friendships. Over time, that loneliness turned to bitterness. He became angry, withdrawn, and combative. By his teens, he was already feared by classmates and a problem for teachers. He didn't fit in, and eventually he stopped trying. Home wasn't any better. Simmons clashed with his stepfather, and by 16, his behavior was spiraling out of control. In a desperate attempt to impose structure, his parents enrolled him in military school. Strangely, it worked. Simmons responded not to love or support, but to control. Rules made him feel powerful. For the first time, he had a taste of discipline, and he liked it. After graduating in 1957, the military felt like the only path forward. He enlisted in the Navy and was stationed in Washington State. That's where he met Rebecca "Becky" Ulibari. To Ronald, she may have represented the stability he never had, or maybe she was just another thing he wanted to possess. Whatever the reason, the relationship moved fast. They married in 1960 and soon after started a large family. From the outside, Ronald and Becky looked like any other military couple, young, married, and raising children. But behind closed doors, Ronald was anything but ordinary. Over the years, he became increasingly rigid, demanding perfection from his wife and children. He wasn't just controlling, he was obsessive. The house had to be spotless. Becky's appearance had to be exactly how he wanted it. There was no room for error. As his military career advanced, so did his need to dominate. Ronald left the Navy in 1963 and joined the Air Force shortly after. He was decorated and praised, awarded for his service, his discipline, his marksmanship. But no medal could cover up what was happening at home. What started as emotional abuse soon escalated into physical punishment, and eventually something even more disturbing. One of Simmons' daughters, Sheila, began to receive special treatment. At first, it seemed like simple favoritism. She had more freedom, more privileges. But soon, it became clear this was something darker, too close, too intense. And then came the moment that shattered what was left of the family. Ronald gathered everyone in a room, looked them in the eyes, and announced that Sheila was pregnant, and he was the father. He said it coldly, without shame or hesitation. He expected everyone to accept it, to carry on as if incest was just another part of their household. Becky, broken and emotionally destroyed, said nothing. But Ronald Jr., Sheila's older brother, couldn't stay silent. He went to her school and told a counselor everything. At first, Sheila denied it, but eventually she broke. Through tears and shame, she told the truth. And here's where the story becomes even more terrifying. Ronald Simmons wasn't just an abusive father. He was a decorated war veteran, a man with medals, rank, and respect. He wore the uniform of a hero while building a kingdom of fear at home. In 1981, the Department of Human Services launched an official investigation. But instead of facing justice, Simmons ran. Like so many cowards, he chose to disappear. He moved his family to Ward, Arkansas, and got a job as a clerk at a veterans hospital. For a while, he seemed to disappear into the background. But the abuse didn't stop. It got worse. Sheila became pregnant again. This time, the pregnancy was terminated, but the damage was already done. Becky was done too, emotionally numb, unwilling to share a bed with him. And yet they stayed, all of them, under one roof. In 1983, the family bought a 14-acre property in Polk County. They called it Mockingbird Hill, a name that would become infamous. Isolated, wrapped in barbed wire, with a no trespassing sign hammered into the ground, it became Simmons' fortress. A mobile home turned prison, a compound hidden from society. Inside, his rules reigned supreme. No warmth, no compassion, just control. Sheila, desperate for something normal, began seeing a young man named Dennis. Despite the long distance, Dennis drove hours just to be with her. But Simmons couldn't tolerate it. He wanted total control, and this relationship threatened that. And so, the seeds of his final plan began to take root. In Simmons' twisted mind, there was only one way to restore order, one way to regain complete power. By December 1987, something inside him snapped completely. He had lost his grip on the family, on Sheila, on the life he had so carefully controlled. And so, on December 22nd, he began a killing spree that would horrify the world. One by one, he murdered his family members, his wife, his children, even the grandchildren, calmly, methodically, almost like it was nothing. But it wasn't over. Simmons left the house and drove to a former workplace where he continued the massacre. By the time he was arrested, 16 people were dead, and Ronald Gene Simmons showed no remorse, no emotion. Only that same cold, hollow stare that haunted everyone who had ever crossed his path. This wasn't just a case of murder. It was a case of domination, of obsession taken to the most horrific extreme. A man who built his life around control and destroyed everyone who threatened to take it away. There was a phone on the property, but Ronald refused to let anyone hook it up. No calls in, no calls out. He demanded complete isolation. The plumbing was non-existent. No working bathrooms inside, just 2 outhouses outside. To make matters even weirder, Ronald built a towering makeshift fence around the house, some sections reaching 10 feet high. He wanted control of everything, including what could be seen, heard, or communicated. Just before Christmas, he ordered the family to dig a new privy pit in the yard. They didn't question him. After all, he was in charge. But that pit would become a grave for secrets far darker than they could ever imagine. Meanwhile, William, one of his sons, was trying to rebuild his life with his wife, Wilma. Their plan: temporary stay at Mockingbird Hill, then a fresh start and remarriage in February 1988. William arrived at the farm on December 21st, but Wilma stayed behind in New Mexico due to money troubles. Back at the property, Ronald was sinking deeper into himself. He locked himself in his bedroom, a private chamber no one, not even Becky, was allowed to enter. His sister-in-law would describe him later as quiet, stingy, and dead-eyed, a man whose glare could freeze anyone in their tracks. Even the children were terrified of him. He forced them to haul 5-gallon buckets of dirt up steep hills, pointless punishment under his twisted orders. Loretta, his 17-year-old daughter, once told a classmate her father was a drunken bum, always clutching a beer and retreating into that foul-smelling locked room. It was clear their home had become a prison. Ronald had once been a decorated military man. Navy, then Air Force, medals, discipline, order. But after discharge, civilian life bruised his ego. He took lowly jobs until he landed in a local legal office as a clerk. For a moment, Ronald seemed to have control again, until he made unwanted sexual advances toward a female co-worker. He was fired and recast himself as the victim in his deluded mind. He then worked for Woodline Motor Freight and tried to restrain his behavior, but resentment fermented inside him. To Ronald, women were objects, soldiers were respectable, civilians were nothing. Quando Joyce Elaine Butts, a new female boss, outranked him, his rage boiled. He became insubordinate and was fired again. In his mind, women everywhere were conspiring against him. As the years passed, his children grew up and began moving away. The younger ones, Eddie, Marianne, Becky, had little choice but to stay. But the fractures in the family were deepening. Sheila had survived unspeakable trauma and married young. William Jr. and his wife built a new life in Fort Smith. Loretta, a brilliant student, dreamed only of escape. They were all counting down the days. Meanwhile, Christmas 1987 approached with a false hope. Becky sent out greeting cards filled with excitement, looking forward to a full family reunion. Ronald, however, had much darker plans. He instructed the children to dig that new pit. They assumed for an outhouse. Instead, they were digging the foundation for a mass grave. On December 22nd, the nightmare began. The house was silent when Ronald Gene Simmons Jr. returned, the same son who had reported the incest years earlier. Ronald struck him in the forehead with a crowbar, again and again. He finished with a stomp to ensure Gene was dead. It wasn't a fury, it was calculated revenge. Becky heard the sounds and rushed upstairs, only to be struck herself. Ronald crept up behind her, swinging the crowbar across her shoulders, mercilessly tearing flesh from bone. Her final moments were agonizing. He finished her off with a .22 caliber bullet to the back of the head. All this while their young granddaughter Barbara sat alone in the next room. Barbara's sobs woke Ronald, who entered her room pretending to console her. Instead, he strangled her to death, dumped her body in a garbage bag by her grandmother's. He wrapped barbed wire around the pit and soaked the bodies in kerosene to mask the stench, cold and methodical, like a ritual. Next came Loretta, dragged into the living room and forced face first into a barrel of cold water, suffocating her life away. Eddie, Marianne, Becky Jr., all thrown into the pit and buried like discarded trash. No mercy, no remorse. Oh, then William Sr., his wife Renata May, and their toddler William III. Shot and strangled in their home, their bodies arranged at the dining table, covered in coats. Their baby son's corpse placed in the trunk of a car parked behind the house, another haunting detail in a meticulously controlled massacre. Later that day, Sheila, Dennis McNelt, and their children Sylvia and Michael arrived, unaware. They stepped inside and froze at the macabre tableau. What followed was chilling. Sheila and Dennis were shot, Michael strangled, Sylvia too, bodies arranged in rows inside the lounge. Sheila draped in a tablecloth, Dennis's son left in a muddy patch, Ronald's final act of depravity. After the massacre, Ronald drove to Sears and picked up Christmas gifts he'd ordered for the family. Then he headed to a private club to drink, unwind. celebrate what he believed was a flawless plan. That night, he returned home, drank beer, and watched TV like nothing had happened, his calmness as disturbing as the murders themselves. On December 28th, he went on another killing spree. At Walmart, he bought a gun. Then he stormed into the law firm of Kathy Kendrick, the woman who fired him. She was shot dead. Next, he attacked Taylor Oil, killing James Chaffin and wounding others. Finally, he went to Woodline Motor Freight and shot his former supervisor, Joyce Butts, and worker Vicky Jackson, taking her hostage to call the police. When law enforcement arrived, they discovered a grisly scene, 16 dead. Michigan authorities rushed in. Ronald was found calm. He was found sane. He had no remorse. His wife, Becky, had been saving money and planning an escape, and his own children had been helping her. One letter Becky wrote referred to herself as a prisoner. "Dad has had me like a prisoner." Loretta's friends confirmed the horror everyone sensed. She wanted out. There had been signs. A letter from Ronald to Sheila said, "I will see you in hell." When prosecutors introduced it in court, Ronald reacted violently. He punched an officer, lunged for a deputy's gun. It was a final display of rage and control slipping away. In May 1988, Ronald was convicted of the murders of Kathy Kendrick and James Chaffin and sentenced to death by lethal injection, plus 147 years. He refused to appeal. "I want no action by anybody, absolutely no appeal," he told the court. In February 1989, he was convicted of the family massacre and again sentenced to death. Even the Supreme Court got involved. His case reached nationwide attention in Whitmore v. Arkansas, but the court refused another appeal. His execution was scheduled for June 25, 1990, the fastest execution since 1976. His final words, "Justice delayed finally be done is justifiable homicide." He left no visitors, no remorse. No family claimed his body. He was buried in a pauper's plot. For us, the investigators, the storytellers, this case hits differently. It's not just the number of victims. It's how methodical, cold, and utterly calculated it was. A man who weaponized his own family and celebrated his plan as if it were a victory. This leaves us with troubling questions. Were there signs that were missed? Could someone have intervened earlier? What broke this man so profoundly? At its core, this wasn't just mass murder. It was a manifesto of control, dominance, and obsessive power. If you've made it this far, thanks for listening. Let us know in the comments. Do you think this horror could have been avoided? Would you have spoken up if you'd seen the warning signs? And if you want more insights like this, check out the next suggested video on the screen. Thanks again for watching Into the Crime Depths. Please subscribe, like, and turn on notifications. See you on the next spooky journey.
In the quiet, unassuming community of Kitsap County, Washington, a picture-perfect family was living a double life. In January 2017, the illusion was shattered in a torrent of gunfire and fire. A family's night in turned deadly when their house went up in flames. Inside, 3 bodies were found, all shot to death before the inferno consumed their home. The horror was just beginning. 2 days later, a 4th body, that of the family's patriarch, was discovered, burned and discarded in a truck deep in the woods. This was no random act of violence. This was a targeted, brutal obliteration. A family vanished from the face of the earth, leaving behind a chilling question. Who wanted the Kurayaga family gone, and what dark secret were they trying to bury with them? To all who knew them, the Kurayagas were the embodiment of the American dream. At the heart of this thriving household was Johnny Kurayaga, 43, a respected figure in the local business community. Known for his sharp business acumen and generous spirit, he was a pillar of his community. His wife, Crystal Lynn Kurayaga, 37, was the family's warmth and joy. Together they had built a stable and loving home, their union a testament to their love. Johnny and Crystal had married in 2009, each bringing a son from a previous relationship into their new family. Jonathan Felipe Higgins, 16, and Hunter Evans Shop, also 16, were more than step-siblings. They were like brothers. Their laughter and energy filled the home, a typical whirlwind of teenage chaos and camaraderie. From the outside, the Kurayagas were the perfect family, doing everything right. Their success was a tangible part of the community fabric. Crystal ran a popular coffee stand, Kale's Java Hut, while she and Johnny co-owned Juanito's Taco Shop, a beloved Mexican restaurant in nearby Bremerton. Their names were synonymous with local business success. They weren't just successful, they were a visible and vibrant part of the community, smiling faces at school events, regulars at local gatherings. But beneath this idyllic facade, a storm was brewing. A dangerous secret was about to rip through their lives, leaving a trail of destruction that would shock everyone who thought they knew them. The nightmare began on a seemingly ordinary Friday night. Crystal Kurayaga had friends over, a casual, harmless gathering. Inside the house, the air was filled with conversation and laughter. Meanwhile, Johnny Kurayaga was at home too, until his night took a sudden and sinister turn. An urgent phone call pulled him away, a brief meeting he promised he'd return from shortly. But when he came back, something was terribly wrong. He never re-entered the house. Instead, he stayed in the garage. One of the guests, sensing the unease, went to check on him. What they heard was a jolt of pure dread, the muffled, angry voices of three men arguing heatedly in the dark. That heated conversation, overheard in the shadows, would be the last clue anyone would have before the night unraveled into a deadly trap. As chaos erupted, a frantic, raw call broke through the quiet of the Bremerton Emergency Dispatch Center. On the other end of the line was 16-year-old Hunter Shop, his voice choked with terror. He told the dispatcher that he and his family had been shot, his words a haunting echo of the horror around him. "I don't know, bro. Just fucking come. My family's fucking dead," he gasped into the phone. "What's the address?" 13417 T90 Drive West. "Come now. You said T90 Drive West, Washington. Okay, listen, I'm shot right now. My family's dead." "Hey, someone here with a gun. I don't know if you need to come now," Hunter pleaded. "How many people?" "I don't know, bro. Just King come." "Yo, where are you shot? King dead. Come, man. Where are you shot? I'm talking. I don't know where." Then the line went dead. In a final act of cold, calculated cruelty, Hunter was smothered with a pillow before being executed with a single gunshot to the head. When first responders arrived, they were met with a scene of utter devastation. Flames consumed the Kurayaga home, a place of warmth and life now reduced to a shell. Inside, amid the smoke and ruin, they found the bodies of Crystal, Jonathan, and Hunter. 3 lives extinguished in a matter of moments. It was brutal, deliberate, and chillingly, it was only part of the story. 2 days later, the final horror was unearthed in a remote part of Mason County, deep within a quiet tree farm. Inside a scorched Ford F-150 pickup lay the burned and broken body of Johnny Curayaga. He had been shot, his truck torched, and his remains left to be consumed by the woods. A caretaker who worked on the property told investigators something strange. Johnny had been seen on the land earlier that same day, but without his truck. This detail, like so many others, raised more questions than answers. Who were the three men in the garage? Why did Johnny return but never enter the house? And what did someone want badly enough to wipe out an entire family? As investigators sifted through the wreckage, the deeper, darker picture of what had happened that night began to take shape. The fire wasn't just meant to destroy evidence, it was meant to send a message. According to the Kitsap County Fire Marshal's office, fire logs likely soaked in an accelerant had been deliberately placed on the beds where Crystal, Hunter, and Jonathan had died. Then, large rocks were hurled through the windows, a final vicious act to feed the flames and ensure nothing was left. Whoever did this didn't just want them dead. They wanted to erase the family's entire existence. But the fire, destructive as it was, didn't hide everything. Amid the burned-out shell of the home, detectives stumbled upon something shocking. Inside the master bedroom, tucked away in a strongbox, was more than $50,000 in cash. A separate money bag held another $7,000. The killers hadn't taken a single penny. The motive wasn't robbery. This wasn't a crime of passion. The only explanation was something far more sinister. This is when the truth about Johnny Curayaga's secret life began to surface. While he presented himself as a legitimate family man and business owner by day, behind the scenes, he was a key player in a much riskier operation. According to law enforcement, Johnny was involved in a lucrative cocaine trafficking ring, reportedly smuggling kilos from California every few months to distribute in Kitsap County. And that secret, a betrayal of a dangerous and powerful organization, may have cost his entire family their lives. Detectives and FBI special agents eventually landed on a chilling theory. This was a hit. A brutal, calculated execution carried out by members and associates of the Bandidos Motorcycle Club. To understand the motive behind the Curayaga murders, you have to understand the Bandidos. They are not just a group of motorcycle enthusiasts. They are an international outlaw motorcycle club, classified by federal agencies as a criminal organization. In their world, loyalty is everything, and betrayal, real or perceived, is a death sentence. The Bandidos, with 14 chapters in Washington state alone, are known to be deeply involved in violent crime and drug trafficking. In fact, some of the people buying cocaine from Johnny Curayaga were patched members of the Bandidos' Bremerton chapter. Authorities in many countries view the Bandidos as a dangerous criminal enterprise linked to a wide range of crimes, including extortion, prostitution rings, drug trafficking, and murder. Their rap sheet is long and chilling: racketeering, arms trafficking, assault, money laundering, contract killing, and more. The club's violent history is well documented. A 16-month investigation in the 1980s involving the FBI, DEA, and ATF resulted in the arrest of 13 members on drugs and weapons charges. In 2000, a deadly shootout broke out between the Bandidos and a rival gang, the Iron Horsemen, at a motorcycle rally, a conflict fueled by a drug dispute. In 2005, 32 members and associates from Washington and Montana were indicted on serious charges, including conspiracy to commit murder and witness tampering. The bandidos operate under a strict code of silence and control. They project an image of brotherhood, but law enforcement sees them as a criminal network that uses violence to protect its illicit operations. The theory goes like this. Johnny Curayaga was not just dealing drugs, he was dealing with the bandidos. Whether he crossed them, owed them money, or was seen as a loose end, the consequence was the same. In their world, a betrayal of trust isn't resolved with a warning, it's resolved with an annihilation. The murder of his entire family wasn't an act of random cruelty. It was a devastating message, a brutal demonstration of power. The fire, the scorched truck, the execution of 3 innocent people. This wasn't just murder, this was an eradication. A family wiped from existence to send a brutal message to anyone else who might dare to cross the Bandidos Motorcycle Club. The Curiagas were a family with a secret, and in the end, that secret caught up with them, a tragic reminder that a hidden life can have consequences that consume not only the guilty, but the innocent as well. The tragic story of the Curayaga family is a chilling descent into the underworld of outlaw culture, where a secret life and a poisonous brotherhood collided with fatal consequences. The web of crime that led to their demise was not a random tangle of events. It was intricately spun, with its fatal thread beginning with Johnny's clandestine association with the Bandidos Motorcycle Club. This was no simple business arrangement. It was a deadly transaction, one that Johnny entered through a trusted friend, a confidant who had been helping him distribute cocaine. This same friend, in a fatal turn of events, began doing business with a formidable figure, Robert "Bobby" Watson, a high-ranking and feared member of the Bandidos. It's unclear whether Watson was simply a lucrative client, a direct competitor, or if he was testing the waters for a hostile takeover of Johnny's operation. But when Johnny's friend abruptly backed out of the arrangement, it forced Johnny into direct, face-to-face communication with Watson. This wasn't a friendly negotiation. It was a confrontation that lit the fuse of a powder keg, a dangerous dialogue between 2 men who believed they controlled their own fates. The tension escalated swiftly. During one of Johnny's regular trafficking runs to California, he found himself being followed. Bobby Watson, a ghost in the rearview mirror, tracked him down. The 2 men reportedly had a heated argument, their tempers flaring and lines being crossed. Whatever was said during that confrontation, a perceived disrespect, a debt left unpaid, a deal gone sour, or a threat to Watson's territory, sealed Johnny's fate. Just weeks later, his entire family would be dead. But the question remained, a horrifying puzzle for investigators. Was Johnny the only target, or was this a brutal display of power meant to send a terrifying message to anyone else who dared to operate outside the Bandidos' control? The man allegedly holding the trigger was Bobby Watson, the vice president of the Bandidos' Bellingham chapter and the suspected mastermind behind the massacre. Yet, even within the club, his actions were met with dissent. When fellow Bandidos members questioned him about the killings, Bobby gave conflicting, evasive answers, as if he couldn't keep his story straight, a sign of his own inner turmoil or perhaps a chilling arrogance. The sheer savagery of the crime, the brutal murder of women and children, crossed a line even for some hardened criminals. The president of the Bellingham chapter openly condemned the killings, cooperating with law enforcement and drawing a clear distinction between the club's code of conduct and a descent into pure, senseless brutality. The Bandidos' code may be murky, filled with violence and retribution, But the slaughter of an entire family was a boundary no one, not even in their world, was supposed to cross. It was an act of cold-blooded cruelty that shook even those accustomed to bloodshed. The web of betrayal didn't end with Bobby Watson. Two other names emerged as key suspects, pulling the curtain back on a network of complicity and deceit. Johnny James Watson, Bobby's younger brother, and Danny J. Kelly, Jr. Johnny Watson, a Bremerton resident, had no direct ties to the Bandidos, a fact that made his alleged involvement even more sinister. His blood relation to Bobby placed him under immediate suspicion. What did he know? What was his role, if any, in the massacre? Was he a reluctant accomplice, forced into a monstrous plan by his domineering brother, or was he a willing participant in the horror? The most tragic and gut-wrenching twist, however, came with Danny Kelly. Kelly wasn't a full-fledged bandito, but was a hang-around, a prospect hoping to earn his patch. His ticket into the inner circle, his ultimate goal, was none other than Bobby Watson himself. What made his alleged involvement so shocking was his history with the Curayaga family. Years earlier, Danny Kelly had been one of Johnny's closest friends, a bond so strong that Johnny had chosen him to stand beside him as his best man on his wedding day. It was a brotherhood that should have lasted a lifetime, sealed by a public declaration of trust and friendship. But something went sour. Their friendship soured after Johnny accused Danny of stealing from him, a betrayal that seemed to sever whatever trust was left between them. This wasn't just a story of a business deal gone wrong. It was a story of bonds built on lies, brotherhoods poisoned by greed, and a loyalty that was ultimately wrapped in bullets. The tragedy was not just the crime, but the perversion of human relationships that made it possible. After years of relentless pursuit, the pieces of the Curayaga family puzzle finally clicked into place. Law enforcement formed a dedicated task force, a high-stakes mission fueled by the urgency to hold those responsible accountable for the devastation they had wrought. The net tightened, and on June 22, 2022, 5 years after the murders, the three men believed to have orchestrated and executed the attack, Danny Kelly, Jr., Robert Bobby Watson, and Johnny Watson, were taken into custody. Their names, once whispered rumors in the dark corners of the criminal underworld, now echoed through the halls of the Kitsap County Jail. Despite the mounting evidence, all three men pleaded not guilty to a staggering list of felony charges, including aggravated murder, arson, and burglary. The weight of 16 felony counts hung over each of them like the sword of Damocles. A judge, recognizing the gravity of their alleged crimes, ordered that none of the three be granted bail. They were stripped of any right to possess firearms, alcohol, or drugs unless medically necessary, and the court forbade any contact between the men to prevent collusion. The system was determined to keep them isolated and under strict watch until justice could run its course. Then came the verdict that would finally close the darkest chapter in Kitsap County's recent history. In April 2024, after a grueling 5-month trial that exposed every gruesome detail of the crime, the court found Kelly and the Watson brothers guilty on a staggering 30 counts, ranging from first-degree premeditated murder to arson and other serious charges. The chilling nature of the crimes, the cold-blooded killing, and the deliberate destruction of the family home left no room for mercy. On May 7, 2024, the sentence was handed down. Life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. No hope of freedom. No second chances. The Kurayaga killers would spend the rest of their lives behind bars, held accountable for shattering a family and ripping a community apart. For the investigators who had chased leads, endured dead ends, and pieced together every clue, it was a hard-earned victory. A grim reminder of the cost of violence, but a promise that justice, however delayed, would prevail. As the courtroom prepared for sentencing, the atmosphere was heavy with grief and emotion. Loved ones of the victims stepped forward to share their pain. Hunter Shop's mother, Carly Shop, brought a powerful and heartbreaking presence to the room when she placed an urn holding her son's ashes on a table next to his photo, a silent testament to the life that was stolen. 8 relatives spoke directly to the court, their voices raw with sorrow, not only sharing fond memories but also urging the judge to deliver the harshest penalties possible. They also thanked the jury for their tireless work. It was satisfying to be able to look at them in the eye and in their face and see these monsters, Carly said. You can sense the evil just by looking at them and being in the same room as them. The tragic story of the Kurayaga family is a haunting reminder of how deep pain can ripple far beyond the immediate loss, touching the lives of loved ones and entire communities. What began as a quiet life ended in unimaginable violence, fueled by a dark underworld most would rather not see. Even as justice was served with life sentences, the shadows left behind linger, and as the dust settles, it leaves you wondering how many more lives are quietly caught in the crossfire of secrets and violence we'll never fully understand. If you enjoyed diving deep into the shadows with us, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more chilling stories, and share this video with fellow true crime fans. There's always more to uncover. Right here on Into the Crime Depths. See you in the next case.